On Tuesday, I learned my girlfriend was cheating on me. I was home early from work and heard her gabbing with Sarah behind the closed bathroom door. She said the words,
"I don't feel good about it, but there's something about him I can't deny."
This got my attention. She said,
"Plus, Jasper's been completely shut down lately.
she went on like this for a while.
Inaccessible, lost in his thoughts. It's like he'd rather be stuck in his own head than with me."
I floated into the bedroom and just kind of sat on the bed for a while, not looking at anything in particular or thinking any one thought. I just sat. I could still hear June going on and on about this mystery man from inside the bathroom. Her voice was muffled through the door like she was talking underwater, but I still managed to catch the string of words that changed everything. The guy's name was Lorenzo, and he worked at the aquarium. This is the one bit of information I wish I didn't have. I wish I didn't hear it. If I didn't hear it, then maybe I'd be able to rest. I could let the whole thing go, with forgiveness and willingness to accept the things I cannot change. But I heard it. Lorenzo, aquarium. And the next day I paid a visit to the sea turtle exhibit. I've always been so fascinated by those little creatures. I scanned the name tag of every employee I crossed and must have asked more questions than any other patron that week. I was just so curious. No one named Lorenzo was to be found. I even went to the manager of the whole establishment to see if he could help me, but he couldn't, or wouldn't. So I went home and spat in my girlfriend's iced tea when she wasn't looking, and then kissed her on the crown of her head and moved on. I'll just have to go back tomorrow. It's our 3-year anniversary tonight, and I'm going to reveal everything I know. I've spent the last week preparing everything. It has to be perfect. I'm going to watch her face turn white and her mouth dry up as it tries to form words, sputtering for even a single syllable. I'm here at the table waiting for June to get back from the bathroom. She has the audacity to arrive 7 minutes late, putting the captain and his whole crew behind schedule. And she's wearing one of her worst dresses. I smile up at her from the other end of the table as she sits down and says, "Sorry I'm late. Traffic was just horrendous." Likely story. I say, "Don't worry one bit. I like having the time to think." I glance across the room at our waiter, whose silver name tag reads Marquis. Marquis is not his real name. This is not a real restaurant. It's a small yacht I've rented for the evening and made to look like a faux French bistro called La Petite Poisson. June is seated finally. I depressurize my lungs with a sigh. I can feel the boat churn with movement as we cast off, and just like that, the voyage is underway. It's a beautiful evening on the water. Marquis has been paid $2,500 in advance in an unmarked envelope. Tonight, he will do everything I tell him to do. In 2 minutes, for example, he'll approach the table and pour 2 glasses of chilled Chardonnay and walk away, at which point I'll say to June, "You know, June, I had the most interesting visit to the aquarium the other day," and her face will go totally pale, and she'll freeze and burn up from the inside, both at the same time when she knows what I know, and I'll take a sip from my glass and flash her my best toothy smile. June has no idea any of this is about to happen. She's looking around the restaurant, which would normally be quite busy at this time on a Friday night if it was a real restaurant, you see. But of course, tonight, our special night, it's entirely empty. It's just us in here, and Marquis. June can't help but comment on this. "This place sure is empty." And I'm like, "It's almost like everyone knew it was our special night." As I turn to glance at Marquis, who's already on the scene with chilled Chardonnay. He fills our glasses and drifts off into the background. June and I cheers and sip in sync, neither of us looking each other's way. On Tuesday night, when I found out, I must have sat on the bed for a full 10 minutes thinking all kinds of things. Things like, June would never do something like this. June loves me. June sees a future with me and would never jeopardize that, like ever. June is both physically and emotionally satisfied with me as a partner. More than satisfied. Thrilled. June wants for nothing. This is so unlike June. In 3 years of seeing each other, June has never once been unfaithful. Why is she all of a sudden now talking all animatedly about this Lorenzo character who works at the aquarium? Why would she not tell me about it? Did something change? Did I change? No. This was her choice. Her fault. It's a beautiful evening on the water. Marquis is in the background working on appetizers. June and I are working on the Chardonnay. June turns to me with her full attention. She's never once looked this present. It's almost beautiful. She leans forward, her eyes as wide as they go, her perfect skin glimmering in the faux French light as she says, "I think I know our waiter from drama class." This is the moment. I clear my throat and say it. "You know, June, I had the most interesting visit to the aquarium the other day." June just sits there. It happens just as I imagine it. Her face goes pale, then it flushes with blood. No, it stays pale. She opens her mouth once, twice, closes it, opens it again, searching for words that aren't there. I sip my wine. Our vessel pushes bravely onto deeper waters. The morning after I find out June's little secret, I pack June her lunch and walk her out the door. Then, once she's gone, I go through all her things. I rummage through her dresser, pull out every article of clothing she owns, and give each one a sniff. Then I let myself loose upon her work desk, certain I'll find something. A letter, a note, something in the mail, any tiny sign of correspondence with Lorenzo from the aquarium. I find nothing. When I see the mess I've made, all her clothes and personal effects tossed about so carelessly like that, I slap myself on the forehead and immediately start putting everything back together just as I'd found it. It's much harder than it looks, and for the next 4 hours I manage to think of nothing else but concealing the evidence of my search. I try to watch TV, but keep going back into the bedroom to make sure I didn't miss a detail. This happens maybe 30 or 40 times. I think it's pretty funny that now I have something to hide from her, but I never get around to laughing. I also never make it to work that day. I go to the aquarium instead. After stopping by the sea turtles and a number of other exhibits to no avail, I visit customer relations. I ask if there's anyone who works there named Lorenzo. The lady at the service desk says,
I'm sorry, sir, I'm not sure.
so I ask to see an employee directory, and she says,
I'm sorry, sir, that's something only made available to aquarium employees.
and when I challenge her on this, saying that's ridiculous, it should be public access, she unfortunately holds firm, and we go back and forth like this for some time until she has security threaten to throw me out, at which point I back off and walk out of my own accord. I get back home, and June has just returned from High Rocks or CrossFit or Pilates or Bikram yoga or aerial yoga or whatever it is she's pretending to do. She started working on dinner. Alaskan cod. Standing directly behind her, I say, did you know insert fact about Alaskan cod reproduction? And I watch her stop stirring the pan and stand completely still for just one moment, one pristine pause frozen in time, and then she starts stirring again and says,
No, I had no idea.
we eat at the table to the music of our own muted internal mouth sounds. We chew, swish, and swallow dry white fish. I make it into work the next day and think of little else other than Lorenzo, Aquarium. I have a very high-level, high-paying corporate job where I deal with large sums of money and inventory and business assets and things like that, and mental concentration is obviously, pretty important for what I do. But today I can't stop thinking about Lorenzo, Aquarium. Lorenzo, Aquarium. Lorenzo, Aquarium. Lorenzo, Aquarium, and so on. We have an important client meeting with an important client, and halfway through my important presentation to a boardroom chock full of my esteemed peers and colleagues, I accidentally blurt out, hey, did you guys know insert fact about how clownfish are the most dominant male species of fish? And I tank the whole acquisition. I am promptly sent home to get my head straight. But I do not go home. I go to the aquarium. In the restaurant that is not a restaurant, on the night of our anniversary, on the deck of what is actually a pretty decked out yacht, June sips her wine and rolls a small mouthful of it over her tongue. I do the same. Marquis, the good waiter who is not a waiter, knows to come back in 90 seconds with appetizers. The empty space hums with quiet. Neither of us talk. I've decided I'm going to let her be the one to break it. Somewhere outside in the night, a lost bird thumps into a porthole and falls to the water below, stunned or dead. Finally, June looks out said porthole and says, we're going pretty far out there, aren't we? And for some reason, I find this question funny and I laugh. I laugh and laugh. She says,
What's so funny?
and I say nothing and leave the question unanswered. June sips her wine and says,
Why is it so empty in here?
the second day I visit the aquarium, I go straight up to the service desk. Linda is the woman at the desk, and she is not pleased to see me on account of having to call security on my ass yesterday. So I muster up my brightest smile and say, well, hi there, Linda. I'd like to apply for a job. Linda says,
You'll have to talk to the director about that.
and in 20 minutes I'm in an interview room that smells like fish. Everything in the aquarium smells like fish. Sitting across from me in the Great Barrier Reef themed classroom is the entire executive board of the aquarium, and they're all very serious people. One of them asks me why I think I might be a good fit for the aquarium, and I say, did you know fact about fish? And did you know fact about oceanography and or conservation? And did you know fact about either one of these things, whichever performed better the first time, and so on and so on. And they're all pretty impressed by this, and they congratulate me and with outstretched hands offer me the role of guest services representative. They say, how soon can you start? And in 18 minutes, I'm standing on the stone steps of the live beluga show in a navy polo plus pin that reads, Save the Turtles. On the boat, on the anniversary, Marquis brings out appetizers. He materializes at the table with a platter of some exotic fish and sets it down in front of us, announcing it. June has not uttered a word in regard or response to my perfectly timed and intoned revelation that I visited the aquarium, which really bothers me because I was hoping she would get flustered and start talking nervously, but not yet. Oh well.
Patience. We'll see how she feels by dessert. The appetizer below us is Basashi. Basashi is seahorse, I think. I say bon appetit and smile. Marquis refills our glasses. June says she has to go to the bathroom again. She goes.
The fastest hire in aquarium history. I work a full shift the same day I join the team, with a big smile on my face. I tell visiting classes of curious boys and girls everything I know about belugas, which is a lot. I'm actually the foremost expert on sturgeons and anadromous fish on the eastern seaboard. Anadromous means it lives in saltwater but moves to freshwater to spawn. Spawn means reproduce. Reproduce means when a mommy beluga and a daddy beluga love each other very much.
While June's in the bathroom, I look over at Marquis with a look that says, "Don't forget to include the message made of cut-out magazine letters on the dessert menu," and he gives me a look back that says, "Don't worry, boss, I've got it covered." I'm quite pleased with our nonverbal communication skills, him and I.
I work the beluga exhibit all day. I ask that child there, would he please refrain from casting his cheese puffs into the beluga tank, thank you very much. I politely decline the advances of one of the school teacher/chaperones. I have a girlfriend, I tell her, and I believe in romantic fidelity above all else. A beluga jumps out of the water and crashes back down, submerging a soggy mass of cheese puffs. At end of shift, I ask Linda if I can see the company directory now, what with being an aquarium employee and all, and a fairly distinguished one at that. I tilt my eyes down at my Save the Turtles pin, as in like, what do you think of that? She says,
"You have to have a good reason to see the directory."
which seems like a strange rule, and I say, well, gee, Linda, I don't know. I guess I've been thinking about my own upward mobility within the organization, and I figured I should figure out who my next boss is going to be so I can start impressing them early on in my tenure. And surely you can understand that, right, Linda? And Linda looks me up and down with a certain squint to her eye. She hesitates for a moment and then leans in. She asks me in a low voice,
"Just answer me one thing. What did the seahorse say to his wife?"
"What?" She mutters,
"Never mind."
and slides over a thick leather binder full of laminated sheets of names, followed by commas and respective roles at the aquarium, also phone numbers. I say, thank you, and retreat to the bathroom, which smells like fish, and read every name on every laminated sheet in the whole binder, and not one of them is Lorenzo. I go through it again, and then again, scouring, running my finger down each page, looking for Lorenzo, but there is nothing to be found. No one by the name of Lorenzo works at the aquarium. I return the binder to Linda, and she says,
"Looking for anything in specific?"
and I almost don't say anything, but then I think screw it and blurt out, do you happen to know a Lorenzo? I know you said he doesn't work here, but like in general, do you happen to know one?
"No, I don't. But I'll ask around."
Wink, wink. She doesn't say wink, wink, but it's implied via tone of voice. She's smiling at me, and I don't know why. Is Linda coming on to me? I go back to my post, the Arctic exhibit. I'm thinking to myself that working at the aquarium is really not such a bad job. You get to meet all kinds of interesting people, and you obviously learn a great deal about the natural world and oceanography and conservation, which is just neat. Fact, fact, fact. In terms of income, sure, it's a bit of a lateral move, but can you really put a price tag on job fulfillment? Here I am wiping snot off the placard in front of the penguins' habitat when I get a call from my boss asking if I plan on coming in today for the big presentation. Ah, yes, I've totally forgotten the big presentation. I tell him no, I work at the aquarium now, and I quit on the spot. He sputters for words or even syllables, and I hang up on him. Now back to the matter at hand. I have to find Lorenzo. I'm in the break room, which smells just overwhelmingly of fish, and I'm all alone in there because they tend to stagger shifts to prevent excess camaraderie and tomfoolery and time wasting between employees. They give you exactly 8 minutes for your afternoon break, and if you're a minute or two late, they give you a stern talking to, and if that happens more than once, then that's a red flag on your employee profile, and 3 of those is you're fired. When out of the corner of the room, I hear a voice.
"I hear you're looking for Lorenzo."
I whirl around to see a short man in the full navy blue uniform of an aquarium custodian. He's an older guy, maybe 40 or 50 or 60, I don't know. He sits in a plastic folding chair cloaked in a pool of shadows, holding the wood handle of his mop inside the mop bucket to his side like a scepter. I don't make a sound because I'm honestly caught quite off guard here. The only thing I manage to say is, what the hell are you doing sitting all the way over there in a literal pool of shadows? He says again,
"I hear you're looking for Lorenzo. I'm here to take you to him."
You're here to take me to him?
"Yes."
And I realize in this moment one horrible truth I've been avoiding the whole time. The realization settles like cold cement at the very base of my gut. I'm totally unprepared for this. I have no idea what comes next. What is my plan? What do I want to have happen here? I've just spent all this time thinking about and trying to find the man, only to realize I haven't the foggiest what's going to occur between me and him when I find him. The custodian says,
"He's been very much looking forward to meeting you.
where is he?
Come with me."
The custodian smiles and stands up and goes to exit the room without saying anything else, so I stand to follow him. I leave the break room just as my 8-minute timer beeps. I close the door on the noise. The custodian leads me down this cavernous corridor lined with pipes of rushing water. It smells like fish. You can hear the echoing screams of visiting school children just above the tunnel. We must be below the polar playground. Where are we going?
To the floor of the ocean.
The speckled stone floor is slanted downward. The walls of the hallway are getting wider. I had no idea there was this much aquarium to explore. We're like descending. It gets darker as we push into the belly of this building that's clearly a lot bigger on the inside than it looks on the outside. The only sounds are the wet footsteps of our feet against the floor, and then way up ahead I see this blue light, just one tiny spot of azure at the end of a long stretch of black. It grows in brightness and diameter with each step until finally I realize it's a glass window as tall as a street lamp and wide as a street lamp, looking directly into the beluga exhibit. They're swimming about, the four of them. One of them catches my gaze and winks. Why is it the belugas are always smiling? I say to the custodian, I didn't think it would get this deep, and he just chuckles and leads me to the side of the beluga tank where of all things there's a spiral staircase, the steps made of seashells, and it goes down, down, down into the earth. And as we descend, our wet footsteps are swallowed by the sound of waves, the kind you find in a seashell when you put your ear to its mouth and can always hear the ocean.
On the boat, June is in the bathroom, and Marquis takes the opportunity to come up to me and say,
Hey, so I know you have this whole thing planned out down to the minute. What comes next?
the waves are certainly rocking the boat up and down and left and right, and halfway through Marquis's question, he's thrown off balance and has to recompose himself before continuing. Marquis, you were provided with clearly typed and color-coded instructions. Why don't you refer to those? And he says,
Yeah, about that.
and presents to me a blank piece of cardstock. Well, no, actually, it's not blank. It's got words on it describing everything that's happened on this meticulously planned evening so far. The Chardonnay, the suggestive comment about visiting the aquarium, the Basashi aka seahorse being brought out, the letter made of cut-out magazine letters to be presented at dessert, although the undefined entree hasn't been presented yet, let alone the undefined dessert, and it's right there that the page runs blank and there's no more sentences or words or syllables. Marquis looks at me like, what now? And I look at Marquis like, what now? As just outside the porthole, a baby beluga leaps out of the water and back down, and just then the bathroom door opens, and Marquis is gone, and the boat is gone, and it's just me and June here in this little place outside of time, as the boat goes up and down and sideways on waves that, by all accounts, should not be possible.
June came out of the bathroom and found me sitting on the bed. Her face was a little flushed. She said,
Well, you're home early.
I said jokingly, Well, don't be too excited to see me. Nobody laughed.
You look stressed. Is everything okay?
Yeah, I just, have a lot on my mind.
Okay. Well, if you need to talk, I'm here.
Is that right?
Yes. Always.
How sweet. Thank you, darling.
I'm gonna get started with dinner.
You go ahead and do that. What's on the menu tonight?
I was thinking... fish?
Works for me.
Great. I'll meet you downstairs.
Great. Great. Great.
Oh, honey,
Yes, darling.
I love you.
I love you too.
And everybody's got